In our Open HPI course about cyber threats by malware, we start to consider the internet as a popular target for cyber criminals. Why it's so easy to misuse the application running in the internet by cyber criminals. It starts that there are billions of different entry points to the internet worldwide. We have internet cafes, we have the system running at home, we have in companies systems that are not correctly configured. So the cyber criminals find many points to step in, to connect to the internet, and then to attack different systems inside the internet. The internet, you remember, this is an interconnection of millions of networks. These networks, which are run by different parties, there are different administrators possible. Also the attackers run their networks, and the communication over the internet is organized by going over the different interconnected networks. So the attacker have a good chance to get access to the data that are transported over the internet. They have a good chance to attack systems in networks that are connected to the internet. If we look to the tools that are used, the computers, the laptops, the operating systems on these tools, the software application, the communication protocols in the networks, there are many design errors. There are design errors, there are implementation errors, or there are also errors in the configuration of the systems. And all this provide vulnerabilities that can be misused by the cyber criminals. So there is a huge number of vulnerabilities and security holes in the internet systems, which are easily misusable by cyber criminals. There are hacking tools available, for example, to perform a denial of service attack, which are very easy to use and which can be accessed over the internet. So if we look to this chart, this presents some results from studies that show that attack sophistication increases, while the knowledge required to launch the attack decreases. So there are tools available that can be used even by people that do not understand how this tool in detail are working. So here, this is the knowledge that's needed in the beginning. In the 80s, in the 19 years, there was a high level of experience necessary on side of the cyber criminals to perform attacks. Here you see mentioned some of the attack methods. Many are based and are performed by means of malware. And meanwhile, the more and more complicated attacks can be performed by hackers with relatively low knowledge, because very powerful attack tools are available. So if we look why there are so many security problems in the internet, we have to look back and have considered the history of the development of the internet. So initially, the internet has started as a research project. So it was a discussion how it's possible to interconnect different, eventually even incompatible networks to provide a network that looks, a virtual network that looks for the user as a homogeneous network. So the great challenge of organization the communication via the boundary of the different heterogeneous and incompatible networks, this was the main focus the researchers were concentrated on. It was a small researcher community. They are familiar with each other, they trust each other. So safety and security was not in this phase a primary consideration when the internet protocols were developed. You can see this in typical sentences in the internet standards that are the RFCs, which say security issues are addressed in this memo, not handled. So there are no solution provided. The researcher, they focused on this communication part. And then the internet, it is a network of independent computer networks among different responsibilities. And then the internet, this research project immediately started, that the people used it also for business and for many applications before it was really the design finished. It was difficult to later on to improve this because there is no central internet authority. There is no government body that can control the entire internet and can say, for example, can insist that a dangerous protocol, a protocol with a vulnerability is replaced by another protocol. For people that are more familiar with the development of the internet, the replacement by the version 4, the IP version 4, internet protocol by the internet protocol of version 6 run over 15 years and it's not finished yet. And this is something which is caused by the situation that there is no central authority for the internet. The local users, the local administrators, they connect to the internet and they are happy to have all the communication possibilities that are provided by the internet. And if we look to the status of the internet today, the internet and its communication technologies are the key technology not only for communication, but they are the key technology for our whole modern information society. In all areas, healthcare, education, business, government, we depend from this internet infrastructure and the services that are provided in the internet. So, of course, many commercial, many private applications are run on the internet, and these are especially interesting for the cyber criminals. So the commercial use of the internet has led to an extreme increase in cybercrimes, which have put the following high risk. So the computer systems themselves, which the attacker try to approach, the communication links and the systems like networks like the internet are of large interest for the cyber attacks, and also the so-called intranets in companies and enterprises. This is the communication infrastructure inside a company, which is organized in the same way like the internet. And of course users, the many users with more or less knowledge. So there are different attack points on the internet. Internet and internet-based systems have many risks and numerous attack points. So, for example, the computer system itself, the PCs, the laptops, the smartphones, the tablet could be attacked. When these systems are connected to the internet, a new number of risks become serious. In the internet, in intermediate systems of the internet, these are systems which are needed to run the internet, but which are systems that are very attractive for cyber criminals. Then, within private networks of a company, of institutions, of our home networks, the new internet technologies and the intranet technologies, this is internet technology inside the walls of a company, they are very attractive and provide a huge number of risks that can be misused by cyber criminals. So the attacks via the internet, we already discussed this, are easy to execute. They have relative low detection rates compared to physical attacks, and they are difficult to trace. So if you are attacked from an IP address, then it's quite sure that it's not the IP address of the attacker. Typically, it's our machines that are covered by cyber criminals that are misused for running such attacks. So the attractiveness and the opportunities of attacks on the internet are high because the internet has become a central infrastructure of our modern society. So the complexity of the internet, of its protocols, of its systems, of its application is constantly increasing. So mistakes and new vulnerabilities occur. Our dependence on the internet, as humans, the dependence on the internet of companies, in industry, in business, in state administration and society is becoming increasingly extensive, and attackers are well prepared. They are organized. They have powerful hacking tools that are easy to access, and so that it's for the attackers not difficult to attack systems which are connected to the internet. The attack tools are increasingly sophisticated. They are easier to use. You can order an attack in the darknet for a few amount of money, and the attacks become even more massive. The rapid growth on the other side in e-commerce, in online gaming, streaming video, in audio services, in social medias, this makes it attractive for the attackers to attack and to use these means for their purposes. So the absence, the lack of awareness of information security, that people are not aware what could happen, that they are not carefully configuring their system, that they are not careful in the user system, that qualified personnel for information security is rare. So it's difficult for the companies to hire system administrators. So the global situation of the internet make it difficult to regulate, to say this is allowed, this is forbidden, because in the different nations, in the different areas of the world, different regulations are in place. In some contexts, there are even no regulation yet. And the lack, even if one has a regulation, the lack of power to enforce such regulations. All of this make it easy for the cyber criminals to do their bad work. And then the rapid development cycle in computer software, in computer hardware. There are many new offers created in short time to attract the customers, to attract the people. And all the systems came with vulnerabilities. So these vulnerabilities that can be misused by cyber criminals for their attacks. And to misuse such a vulnerability, that's called exploit. So the majority of attacks exploits known vulnerabilities for where the countermeasures could have been possible. But the people do not update their systems. They are not careful enough, because such an update typically closes such vulnerabilities, makes it no more misusable. So this is why the internet is a popular target for cyber criminals, and that's the reason that we should know this. We should be able to understand how such attacks are performed and to secure our systems against such attacks. And exactly that's the reason what we want to do in this course by speaking about cyber threats that are organized, that are performed by malicious software, by malware.